Welcome to Evolution on the Mic. I am your host, Ariana de la Cruz.
And I'm your co-host, Antoine Dove.
And we are back, season 7, Faith in Yourself, episode 5, Stop Second Guessing What God Has Already Confirmed. In our last episode, we explored the idea of reframing your struggles as part of your transformation journey. We talked about how the hardest moments, the ones that shake our confidence and make us question our worth, are often the very places where God is doing his deepest work. It's in those seasons of pressure, doubt, and discomfort that he is shaping us, stretching us, and preparing us for what's next. If you guys did not watch that episode, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you watch it because it was such transformational information that we gave in that episode that I can guarantee will shift your perspective, will shift your heart, will shift your being into what God is calling you to be and what he's calling you to do. So definitely check it out, y'all. But on today's episode, we're challenging you to stop second guessing what God has already confirmed in your life. If you've been feeling stuck, if you've been waiting for more signs or battling imposter syndrome, this one is for you. It's time to walk with confidence in what God has already spoken over your life. But before we get into all of that, Antoine, I want to check in up on you because I know we got some, some juicy stuff that we're going to be talking about today. How you been, Antoine? How you doing?
I'm great, Adi. I'm great. Thank you so much. Yeah, man, life's good. I'm really loving this kind of season that I'm in right now.
Yeah.
Because I am because I feel like my walk with God, my faith walk has been challenged in some areas,
Okay.
but I also feel like my relationship with God is growing. I'm being either put in rooms or being places where I'm being surrounded or interacting or engaging with people who are like-minded in terms of their faith and their walk with God. I'm seeing more of that even out as like I'm on like Instagram and I'm looking at things. I'm seeing more and more people speaking out about their faith. And I think that's so encouraging. It's so exciting to see people having a much more vocal approach to not only their walk with God, but just their faith in general. Because I feel like we're in this time, right? Like where there's a lot of things happening around us that's just not great. Terrible things that are happening. You look at the news, which I don't like even to look at the news, period, other than like the fake news and stuff that pops up on, the social sites from time to time. But like you look at the news and you think the world is coming to an end. And in many ways, yeah, people would say we're in the last times or the last days. But it's encouraging to see the light that so many people have, and that's God's light that's coming through them in whatever way they're sharing their talents and gifts. And I just love seeing it. And I'm praying every day that God continues to strengthen my gifts and strengthen who I am and who God has called me to be. And most importantly, I can't thank enough for this podcast and what this has meant to me in my journey. And I feel like this has been such an anchor in my life. It's helped me through those tough times. Whenever I'm doubting, I go back to the things we've said on this podcast and what they've meant for me. So yeah, I think right now I'm happy, I'm grateful, full of love, full of light.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to my daughter who will be here shortly. She's only about 2 weeks away from coming to be hanging out with me for the summer. I know
Amazing,
I'm
amazing.
excited. I'm excited. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm on cloud nine right now, Adia. I'm just full of love, grace, and gratitude for everything God's doing in my life. But what about
Oh,
you?
that's
Enough
awesome.
about
That's
me.
awesome.
What about you? What's happening in Costa Rica? I mean,
Oh
you
man, Costa Rica is beautiful, man. Like I absolutely love it here. Definitely, went through some challenging times as, I expressed before with adapting to being
right.
here and not understanding, and I'm not gonna lie, there's still days where I'm still like, God, like, are you gonna call me out of Costa Rica? Are we going somewhere else? I talk to my mom all the time and she's like, oh, she just wants me back in New York, or she wants
Of
me like
course.
somewhere nearer to her. She's like, even if it's Florida again, like she's like, you're too far away, it just feels far. And I'm like, mom, but you barely visited me when I was in Florida. Like, it doesn't matter where I'm at. But she's like, no, just knowing that, you were in Florida was so much closer. So, I joke around my mom, like, I'm like, God, mom, I don't know where God is going to take me next. I've been here, it's almost been 3 months, and I understand spiritually why I'm here. But of course, my physical being, the way I see things on a physical plane is like, girl, where we going next? Like, all right, we had enough. Costa Rica, 3 months is beautiful, it's great, but there's other beautiful, great countries in the world, right? It's not only Costa Rica. And then I started joking with my mom. I was like, Mom, well, maybe I should just go to DR. She was like, yeah, DR is way more developed. They have a lot of more like malls and stores that you're used to, and the food is much better over there, because I complain about the food here, they don't have a lot of options that I'm used to. And she was like, yeah, they have everything over there. It's more developed than Costa Rica. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I should go. Then I was like, eh. So we're going to go to DR. Yes, there's still beautiful beaches, beautiful island, amazing food. But God has me here for a reason, a big spiritual reason, a big spiritual awakening. I am going through so much healing while being here. I'm going through so much pain, but I know that God is using that pain to help me break through my own self. I can see why here is it, right? Here I have peace. Here there's not that much temptations for me to do the wrong things. There's so much clarity for me here to just focus on me, right? There's not many escapes, because again, this is just, this country is not as developed, so there's not much to do. There's not much that really draws my eye, other than doing like, the tours to explore the country, which is good things for me. But I'm like, yeah, in DR, the music, the food, the drinks, the cute guys, and I'm just gonna be just living my best life over there. Like, I might as well go back to New York and just go back to what I'm used to. So I know that God didn't choose Dominican Republic for me to go and get this healing. He chose Costa Rica. He knows that this was going to stretch me. He knows that this was going to be somewhat of a struggle for me. And this was going to be something where I really had to truly look deep, deep, deep inside myself and see myself and uncover my true self. So I know that that's why God has me here. So I love Costa Rica. I think it's great for my spiritual healing, but there's still parts of me that is like, where next? God, where can I go somewhere else? And I'm like, okay, God, I know that you have me here for a time. Don't know how much longer. Don't know that time. I don't know, because as y'all know, I'm very transparent. I just follow the voice of God. I obey. He told me to do something. I'm doing it. It don't make sense. 90% of things that I do and the decisions that I make absolute no sense to me in my physical being. I'm just being obedient. But God always makes it clear why. He always makes it clear, this is why I had you do this, this. All these things that I had you do had purpose. It grew me, it strengthened me, it molded me, it connected me stronger to him in everything that he allows me to do and everything that he calls me to do. And I just do. So I'm here in Costa Rica, just following a calling. Don't know how long. I have great days. I have not so great days. I have tantrums, and I'm overall in my spirit, I feel safe. I feel called to be here. In my spirit, I feel like it all makes sense. So I just lean on that whenever my ego, whenever my human self wants to try to come in and say, girl, we have money, let's go somewhere else. Like, why are we here? With the food, we don't even really like the food. I love to eat. Hello. And God is like, well, girl, maybe we don't need to like the food, because we maybe need to go on a little diet, right? Maybe I brought you here so that we could just eat some fruits and vegetables. We don't got to worry about nothing else. But I'm like, God, only you can help me with that area. Anyhow, so I can say that, God is definitely working in me being here. I can feel myself expanding and stretching and growing. And there's definitely a lot of pain that comes through that I'm going through. But I know that on the other side of that, it's a beautiful place for me to be. It's a beautiful growing that I'm evolving into, and a different being and a new creature that is being evolved through all of this. And I'm excited for that version of me that God is developing. I'm excited to see that version of myself in reality, because I totally can see that version of myself in my mind, right? In my mind, I see her. She's amazing. She's great. I love her. I honor her. I'm proud of her, right? But I can't wait to see all of those things that God has for me, and all the shifts that I'm going to be making in my heart to become a much better person, to become more in alignment with who God is. And I'm just excited for all of that to unfold for me, and everything that brings with it, in helping other people, and in really doing my calling of helping other people get more connected with God and know who he is, and that with him anything is possible,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I think
Love
that
it.
ties into greatly in what we're talking about today on our episode. You
All
know,
right.
stop second guessing what God has already called you for, what God has already said. You know, we already know that God has a calling for us, or maybe we don't know. We're seeking through it, and we have moments where we have all the glory, and we're like, hi, we see the light, and we're like, oh, that's so gonna happen. And then we have moments where the light dims, and we're like, I have no idea how it's gonna happen. I'm
Mm-hmm.
lost. I don't see it no more, God. I don't hear you no more, God. What's going on? And we get into a panic, and we just start second guessing and second guessing and second guessing, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
And we can see that God, everything that God has for us, but then we see our current circumstances contradicting everything that God promised us.
Yep.
And we don't know how to navigate through that. And you know, I know that I am going through a mighty season, and that I'm going through a lot of breakthroughs and a lot of, you know, a lot of the pain, but I know they all have purpose. And but I know that God is going to carry me through that, and there is a beautiful other side to all of this, even
Yeah.
though right now I don't see it.
Yeah. I feel that too, Ariana. It's parts of my life where I can see that too. But I think, what's hard to understand sometimes is like, how do we keep going when everything around us contradicts what God has promised us, right? Like God promises this dream and we can see it and we want to lean into it. But you start looking to your left, you look to your right, you look in front of you, and you're like, God,
Yeah.
I don't see it. I just don't see it. So, how do you keep going when you are in that situation, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying, and where it took me to was when a phase in my life that I was in when I like a couple years after I left New York and I
Mm-hmm.
came to Florida. I went to Florida for someone I was in a relationship with, but that's what God used to pull me to a whole nother state. And while I was there, that relationship didn't work.
Mm.
So like a year later, I was single. I was all by myself in Florida. I had a job. I was doing social work, and I was in there for like maybe like 2 years and a half in that
Mm-hmm.
job. And that's all I had was that job, because like I no longer had the relationship. I was living by myself. And I remember like questioning God, like, okay, um, I'm here. I know you brought me here, but I'm scared. I'm
Mm.
scared that, you know, the job that I had, I no longer felt that it was in alignment with my future.
Mm.
And I felt God call me to leave because it was doing me more harm than good. I was having a lot of heavy panic attack, anxiety attacks. I wasn't really getting any sleep, and I was stressed out a lot, and it wasn't
Mm.
good for my mental or spiritual health,
Mm.
that job at the time. And I was like, God, I'm not a quitter. Like, you want me to leave this job? I didn't know if it was really God calling me to leave, or if it was just me on my own because of all the physical effects it was having on me, you know? But God told me to, I'm safe, that it's okay for me to leave that job. And I remember when I was getting ready to finally make that decision, I was like, girl, you have to be smart here. I had signed a lease in an apartment. And you know, I'm a very responsible person, right? And I'm a person of my word. So it's like I signed this lease. What if I leave this job? So before I made any firm decision, I started asking questions. So I remember I went to the leasing office and I had told the leasing lady that, like, what are my options, that I'm thinking of leaving my job. You know, I haven't left the job yet, but I wanted to know my options because I know I'm in a lease and I know I have responsibilities. And she started telling me, you know, all the running down of what to look out for, what might happen, and what I might have to pay, and all of that. She gave me all the terms of if I break my lease. But I also shared with her a bit of my story of what I was going through with the job. That I was there for a couple years. I felt God called me to that I had left New York and I came to Florida, you know, seeking something. And, you know, I told her about Mentor's Way. And I feel like there's a grand calling on my life. And I just no longer felt like that job was linked to my calling, and that I was making a decision on pure faith. But I wanted to make sure that I, you know, I did the right thing by my apartment and my owner. And so that's it. That was it. I didn't tell her that I made a decision. I didn't tell her that I gave notice, because at that time I hadn't. I was just in that, what I was feeling and planning for it.
Mm-hmm.
So like 2 months later, I actually left the job. I left, I gave my notice, and I just knew that it was it for me. And I had no plan B, right? Now, God had told me all these things was going to happen, right? And, when I was 18, 19 years old, I was so linked to that field of social work that I thought I was going to, continue in social work forever. And I'm like, God, you're having me leave this job, and I don't know what else I'm stepping into. I have no idea what else you have for me, but I'm following your guidance. You're telling me that this is no longer for me. I have no plan B, but I'm going to trust, and I'm going to listen, and I'm going to follow. I started having visions of me living out of my car. I started having visions of me, this was me and my fear. Well, you know what? I might be living out of my car because I'm leaving the job, no money to pay my rent. I was like, I just see myself living on the beach and being just figuring it out. Like I was scared, my mind just went to all the negative outcomes of what might happen. But even though I had those negative mindsets, it didn't stop me from making the decision of what God said. Because if I had to live out of my car, if I had to live on the beach, if I had to, I would have. If I had to work McDonald's and flip burgers, I would have. Because I know that God does everything for my good. So even though I have fears, it didn't stop me from being obedient. Literally 2 weeks after I gave my notice, I got a phone call from the leasing manager. She was like, "Hey, Ariana, do you have time to come to the office tomorrow? We need help. Our office manager just up and left out of nowhere, and we need help. We need somebody to come and answer phones." I said, "Yes, I actually do have time. I can, go and help out." So I was thinking that I'm only going to be there for that day just to help out till they found somebody else. And little did I know what God was doing in my life. Little did I know that God was positioning me to be in a different career, to learn different skill sets, to learn business, to learn how to lead, to apply the master's degree that he led me to in leadership. Little did I know that call that came in for me to just come and help out was going to lead me to being the right hand to the CEO of the company, that it was going to lead me to learn every department in that company and rise to the top of the ladder in that company, to the point where I almost brought that company out. And I know I've shared this story before. And when she said that, I still had no idea that I was gonna have a job there. I was there to help out. Then the boss came, Harlan, and said, "Can you just come and work, part-time?" I'm like, perfect, part-time is great, because that's the only thing I have right now, because I'm working on my master's degree. So it worked out for both of us. A week later, I got a raise, like $1 raise. Every week I was getting like a little raise here and there. And I started getting promoted from this to this, from that to that. I got promoted to every position that, I knew everything. I was responsible for hiring, firing. I learned so much about business. And little did I know that God was taking me out of one career in social work, but it wasn't because God forgot, or that God forgot about me in Mentor's Way. It was that now I had to learn business. I had to learn the ins and outs of operating a company, right? Because my ex-boss taught me a lot about how to operate in a business. I wasn't going to get that doing social work. So God put me there 8 years later. I was at the top of that company. And had I not listened to God to leave that job, had I not listened to God and just be obedient, I would have never had the skills that I have today of running my own company, of running my own businesses, because God took me through the steps to gain the confidence that I needed for that. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. Everything at that time contradicted everything God promised me. Everything. I was leaving a career in social work that I thought was linked to Mentor's Way, that I had to just keep doing social work. And I left that to go into a whole different career that to me had nothing to do with Mentor's Way. I thought I was wasting time. I thought I was wasting my energy, my resources. Like, what am I doing here? At first, I thought, maybe God is just having my back and doing this little job part-time. It's easy, way easier than social work. And he just asked me here because God wants me to really do good at my master's degree. So I'm thinking that was a blessing, because God wanted me to have the time and dedication to get a master's degree. So now I have the time because I'm just getting a part-time, and that part-time was enough for me to cover my bills. And that was my thinking. But wow, God's thinking of me getting that job was much greater. Because right after I graduated my master's degree, I thought I was going to resign and go get me another job, right? That linked more to Mentors Way, that linked more to my goals. The same day that I graduated, my boss called me. He said that he had an epiphany in the middle of the night. Like he had like a vision, an epiphany that God told him to hire me full time, to give me a exponential raise, and to give me a title, an amazing title. And I said, and I got goosebumps, and I have goosebumps now telling the story, because he told me that he had like an epiphany, like a vision. God worked through Harlan for me. Harlan didn't know what Harlan was doing. God knew what Harlan was doing. God, because God kept and will keep his promises for me. And God does everything for my good. God does everything for your good.
Amen.
God put in his heart to hire me full time, to give me a raise, to, give me a title, to go hand in hand with him in the business. What I didn't know was for my good, what I feared, what I thought. I had to hold on to what I know. God told me, let go of what you know. I know what I know. Let go of what you know, because what you know is not going to lead you in the path of what I have for you. And I'm just so grateful that at the time, even though I was going through a mighty struggle, a mighty battle of second guessing God, well, you promised me this don't make sense. Nothing around me makes sense. Like, you're about to have me leave this career for this career, or no career at the time, into getting a part-time job, into getting a full-time job, into going in that company to the top of the ladder. And now my life now. It's a whole 360 that happened for me, but God did it for me. And God didn't judge me because I doubted. God didn't judge me because I was second guessing everything. God didn't judge me because, yes, everything contradicted his plan. God just wanted me to be obedient. God just wanted me to stay the course. God just wanted me to stay in alignment with him no matter what, no matter how it looked, no matter how scary it looked, no matter how much sense it did not make, because, child, it made no sense to me. Nothing I was doing at the time. And it was one of the toughest pains I've ever had to go through at that time, because I was alone. My family was in New York. I was in Florida all by myself. The partner that I loved, that didn't work out. And I was single. I had, bills, my own bills. I had my car notes. I had my rent. I had, groceries, light. I had everything, all on my own, depending on no one. But I knew that I could depend on God. I knew that I could depend on him to provide for me, to give me a way out. I knew that he was going to do it for me. But in the midst of all of that, I knew that God could do it, but it was scary, because I'm like, God, will you do it? I know you can, but I don't get it. And I'm scared out of my ass about what is really going on with my life, because it made no sense. It made no sense. None. And when I think back on that, and I think about the pain that was related to me back then, I know that there's a lot of people watching that are seeing themselves right now in their situation, maybe with a deep pain, maybe doubting, maybe feeling like I know what God said, but right now I'm second guessing all of it, because my life right now on the outside is totally contradicting my life and what's really going on. It's contradicting everything God told me, But God is not a God that is going to lie. He allows certain things to happen to get you where he needs you to go. Sometimes it seems like a detour, but that detour was necessary, because God knows that if he didn't have you take that detour, you probably just would have taken another course. You probably would have went left. So he needs to take you through a detour and have you questioning, and you don't see God, you don't feel God, you don't know, you see his darkness and confusion. But he has to take you there, because in that darkness, in that detour, is when you really lean on him, and you really trust him, and you really give it all to him, because you're in that dark place, in that detour, and you don't see nothing. You don't see nothing. You don't see a way out on your own. Your ego could try all at once, but there's no way out of that. But that's when God does his deepest, most beautifulest work in you as a person, because that you have to trust him.
Mhm.
You have to throw up your hands and say, God, this is a new territory for me. I don't know what's going on. I can't see my way out of this. So I have to give it to you. And you do give it to him. And that's when he starts changing you. That's when you get peace in your mind and your heart about what he's doing. That's when you're like, God, I know you got it. I don't got it. And what you doing, I bow down to you, because you're going to make a way out of this. And you do everything for my good. Everything that happens in my life is for my good. And I can totally see my situation back then. I didn't get it. It made no sense. It was one of the scariest time of my life. I was going through so much pain. I doubted everything God had for me. I said, God, this makes no sense. Did I make a wrong choice by coming to Florida? Am I going backwards? Like, am I not in alignment? Did I hear you? Did I hear you incorrectly? And I can see all of that happened, and all the decisions that I made, and all the steps that I was taking, just one after another, just following God, just being obedient. I can see how all of that was for my good when I look back today at everything that I learned working with HG Property Management, working in that job that came out of nowhere. Because the leasing manager at the time, her name is Giselle Montoya, she had no idea that I had left my 9 to 5. She had called me out of pure desperation and prayer and hope that I was available, because I had told her a few months back that I was considering leaving my job. Everything happens in God's timing. Everything happens in God's will and grace for you. And nothing is happening to harm you. Everything is happening to grow you. There's something you need out of it. God is taking you to another level. And that next level takes a certain level of trust in God. So whatever trust you have in God in this level, it's not going to get you here, because this is tougher. There's more in it. This is going to require a different level of trust in God and in yourself. So that's what God does. He has certain things happen, certain details happen, certain dark places in your life. He allows you to stay there, but it's so that you can learn to let go, surrender, give it to God, trust God, and know that he's going to make a way out of no way in his perfect timing.
Wow. Wow. I
know I said a lot.
Yeah, but it was so good because there were so many elements of things that you talked about that are just beautiful reminders of the journey we're going through. All of us, we all have our own journeys. No one's journey is the same. The experiences we go through are all kind of related. Like you'll find someone who's like, I've been in a dark place, and you start talking about the dark places you've been through, and you'll realize that it really boils down to a few things. And the first thing is it all boils down to your faith. What is the faith that you have in God and what he's called you to do? And what I thought was so interesting about what you shared, Ariana, was, one of the things I think about is how does this doubt come about, right? Like all of us are deep in our walk with God, or maybe you're just starting your walk with God. It doesn't matter where you're at on the continuum. But as you start your journey in your faith walk with God, you are gung ho. You're excited. God, whatever you call me to do, I'm here for it, right? And you receive that clarity. God came to you. He said, Ariana, this is where the path I'm going to have you go. Mentor's way. He gave you the vision. There was complete clarity. There was no doubt in your mind. And I remember you telling the story, like you was like, this is the direction I'm going. I don't need high school. I'll figure it out. I'm going to get there. And it's so interesting how we'll receive that level of clarity.
Yeah.
But when it's time to take action,
Oof.
we pause.
Yeah.
We stop. We second guess. God, are you sure? Is that what you really called me to do? And it's in that moment that we start to rely on our physical instead of our spiritual to help us get through. We start to think about, we use our brain, right? We try, oh, well, let me think through this. Is this logical? And you were talking about, like, is this logical? Like, before I leave, even though God had told you, Ariana, you need to go. This place is not helping you. It's not going to get you to where I need you to be. You're like, no, let me figure this out. Let me try to work it out. I'm going to go talk to the leasing office. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to
Yeah.
make sure I have a plan. But God was like, I need you to move. And yes, he used that situation to set up something later on that was coming down the road. But ultimately, what happened was you made a decision and you moved despite what would come. You said, I'm leaving this job and I'm going to put my faith and trust in God no matter what comes. If it means I have to freaking live out of my car, I will live out of my
That's what I
car
told myself. Yep.
to get through this. And to
Yeah.
me, that was the turning point. You stopped second guessing what God had already called you to do. And you said, God, I know what you've called me to do, and I am your humble servant here ready to serve. And that's all he's looking for. He's just looking for us to say, I'm ready to serve no matter the cost, no matter what it means, no matter what I may lose. And sometimes, and I loved you said this in your story when you were sharing, you were alone. Sometimes God's going to remove some people from our lives that he knows will be a distraction or hold us back from moving forward.
Amen.
And he
Amen.
sets you up so perfectly for that. He says, Ariana, all you have left to do is depend on me. So what are you going to do? And for my people out there, and I'm going to share this because this hit my spirit hard. For my people out there who you're going through a storm and you're saying to yourself, you know what? I'm tired of being in this storm. I feel like I'm constantly in this storm. When am I going to get out of this storm, God? Like, when am I going to get out of it? Believe me when I tell you this, God doesn't want you in that storm. You may have to go through storms and tough times, but God doesn't want you to be there forever. It reminds me of an analogy, and I saw this the other day. I was looking at something, they were talking about buffaloes. And I don't know if you've heard of this analogy, but when there's a storm coming, buffaloes run towards the storm. Unlike their cow counterparts who usually sit and wait for the storm to pass, buffaloes run towards the storm. And there was this thing of like, well, why do buffaloes do that? And the reason they do that is because it shrinks and shortens the time in which they have to endure the storm. So they run towards it. And that is what God is calling all of us to do. He's saying there's a storm coming and the storm is going to prepare you. Now, how long you sit in that storm is totally up to you. Are you going to run towards the storm and trust me that you're going to get on the other side of it and shorten the time that you're in that storm? Or are you going to sit in the storm and hope that things pass and hope and second guess and, oh God, but I mean, I know you're telling me to leak, but are you going to move? And it's when you move and when you're running towards that storm, you said, God, I'm trusting you with all my heart. I'm getting through this, that you get through the storm and what you needed to experience through that storm to help you grow, you achieve. And I think so greatly of the story you just shared because I feel like you embodied so much just in that short story of where all of us are at in that journey with God when we are at a place in which we're second guessing what God has already confirmed. God's already gave us a clarity, we're second guessing it. And you went through all of those stages. You doubted. You finally made the action and took the action. And when you took that action, you realize that God's just calling me to go. He's not looking for me to try to pick apart his plan. He's perfect. He's already told us what's going to happen. He may not give you all the details, but that's why faith's there. If God told us everything that's going to happen, we don't need faith, right? We already know what's going to happen. But God needs to know that we're going to trust him no matter what. And for some of us, him sharing everything could mean that we don't take action because we're afraid. And so God's not going to give you everything. He's going to give you what you need to make a decision. And then he's going to ask you for the rest of it just to have faith in him. So thank you, Ari, for that beautiful story, because I felt like I just learned so much from that short story that you shared that I've seen come up in my life and that has helped me whenever I'm facing that storm moving forward to say, stop second guessing. There's no more second guessing. God's already told you what he has called you to do. Now do it at whatever cost. Do it because God is going to provide. He is going to provide and make sure you're taken care of. And if you don't believe that, go back and listen to Ari's story. He provided. Right when she thought she'd be sleeping on the beach, he opened the doorway for a new job. And that job allowed her to propel to become the right arm of the CEO, to then launch her own business where now she helps other businesses acquire the funds that they need. But not only that, also is able to help those businesses grow their business because why? She has an operations background. She's been in it. She understands it. So even someone that's like, I'm running my business for the first time, she's able to add even more value than just getting them funding.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.